Behold, my glorious supporter Scoomslayer has requested a blind reaction to Buck Up and Drive. For my May Parley, I'd like to request that you look at the Steam store page of Buck Up and Drive. Ideally a blind reaction, but if you've seen it before, I'd still like to know your opinion of it. No, I don't know what this is. I'm just gonna stop right here. So you can see that in the little subtitle I wrote, the and is capitalized. Okay, so this is the kind of person I am. You know, I majored in English in college, and a lot of people will do this thing where they say, like, I'm an English major, so that the grammar is wrong or whatever. Look, I majored in English, which is why I understand that that stuff doesn't matter, and you're just being an obnoxious prick if you care too much about like extremely small differences and like that everybody knows what this is, but that's just how language is changing. Like when people say, "Oh, I wish I could give you a good example," but like phrasing of something that like doesn't entirely make sense, it's like, but that's just what it is now. Like that's how language develops. It's ridiculous to say like that's not grammatically correct. Like if nobody knows that, I guess it isn't correct then, is it? So don't get me wrong when I'm about to say what I'm going to say. I'm kind of like an anti language rules person to some extent. I do think that it's just pointless. Like it functions in no positive way. It just makes people brag about being smarter than each other in a completely meaningless and inane way. But I have to be honest with you. The moment that I confirmed that the Steam title of the name, like on the Steam page, it does actually capitalize the and. It doesn't do the common thing, which is most of the time, minor words, it's lowercase like that. You see, I've changed it. Generally, they'll do it like that. I know this is completely ridiculous, but my first negative reaction was I read the name and realized you've capitalized the and. A bold move. Buck up and drive. So that's ridiculous, but you're asking me to react to the game. And look, you said, I know it isn't much of a Buildcraft game, but it's still interesting for different reasons. You don't have to only show me Buildcrafty stuff. Buildcraft is also very connected to video game design. It doesn't have to be like explicitly a game where you make builds. Making the game that way was Buildcraft, and we can talk about that too. So nothing to worry about there, by the way. And marketing the game that way or not is a choice. I suspect that the person who titled it that maybe didn't think about capitalizing the and. Studies and surveys have shown that most people write things ways or do grammar rules a certain way because they think that's the right way to do it, not because they have any personal opinion about it either way, just because they don't want to look what they would think is like looking stupid, when in fact, like, reasonable, smart people shouldn't be upset about a very minor style change. It doesn't really matter. I just think it's really interesting. It doesn't matter. I'm just being a bit tongue-in-cheek about like, oh, the and is capital. Anyway, okay, let's talk about the game, for goodness sakes. Okay, so here I am on the Steam page. Buck up and drive. Let's look at the tags. Oh, and the tags are action, racing. Okay, it looks like a pixel art retro racing game, but oh, what's this? There are health bars, like in a fighting game. I'm gonna read more tags. Action, racing, arcade, yeah. Runner? Okay, probably just racing, I guess. And then beat 'em up. And then one of the tags is beat 'em up. Interesting. Okay, so there's a trailer. Let's watch the trailer. Ready, drive. Okay, and then there's some extreme drifting. Go really fast. Okay, the car can do like kickflips. You can do rail grinds as the car. Okay. You can do like slide moves to whack other cars out of the way. This actually looks pretty sick. Like, not gonna lie, my first impression is this is $5 on sale right now until May 30th. Not sponsored, obviously. Well, I mean, by Scoomslayer, I guess. Not leaving a terrible first impression. It looks like some silly fun. Okay, there are actually Street Fighter style combos where you go like down, diagonally down, left, and then it'll do a hurricane drift. So I'm pretty much gonna buy this game. Let's read the Steam description, shall we? There's a review from Destructoid, which says impressive efforts with a few noticeable problems holding them back. No word on what those problems are. That's useless. Won't astound everyone, but is worth your time and cash. 8 out of 10. That's a bad review. Let's read the about this game section. Where are we going? As individuals? As a species? What awaits us at the end of this road? I'm not making any of this up. This is word for word what's on the Steam page. Is there an end? Was there a beginning? Does this road symbolize real life in the sense that there's no turning back? And how does pineapple juice fit into all of this? Maybe I should just shut up, buck up, and drive. Features. Endless driving game inspired by arcade classics, with simple yet intense gameplay featuring a total slap in the face of realism, and a kick in the spleen, too. Procedurally generated track with multiple environments to visit, ranging from the somewhat realistic to the completely absurd. Go to hell. Literally. It actually does say that. I promise I have not added any words that are not in the description. Pink, period, backflipping, period, trucks, period, on the fucking moon, period. That's in all caps, obviously. I read it in all caps. I just wanted to make sure you knew. Go 1v1 against another player or a CPU in a fighting mode with cars. I don't know either. I came up with it while in the shower. Customizable car decals through external image files. Put eggplants all over the cars for all I care. And eggplants is in italics, so that's how you know it's about eggplants. Controls for both game modes are 8 directions and 1 button. Play one-handed if you want. Keep your other hand for holding orange juice. Yes! Exclamation point. Available for both Windows and Ubuntu. Other Linux distros may work. Okay. Mature content description. The developers describe the content like this. Fair bit of swearing as well as some politically charged messaging. Okay, I kind of doubt it, to be honest, but that's it. That's all the stuff. That's pretty great. Not sure there's like a lot else to say. It looks neat. Let's talk about what I said before, which is that build crafting a game, well, okay, designing a game is build craft. And I haven't played this game, but I'm just going to talk about, like, it appears that they've added some, like, you know, skateboarding, rail grinding elements. And it reminds me a little bit of a lot of those, like, snowboarding games as well, actually. And some, I guess, like, Street Fighter elements to an arcade driving game. Why? I mean, why not, is what the game designer would evidently say. And I'm not inclined to disagree with that assessment. But let's think about it critically a little bit. What is good or not about doing that? I'm going to close the Steam page because it's very distracting. There's some colors in this game, okay? There's like at least 7 different colors. Like, it's a lot of colors, okay? Yeah, I think that the idea of putting like a health bar in your driving game is not disinteresting. I was playing Forza Horizon 5 recently, and they have a setting that you can turn on that lets you mimic, you know, like damage to the car from driving really recklessly. Because a lot of the things you do in driving games, right? Like, I don't know about you, but when I drive an actual car, I think I probably won't like tip the car and die if I do X, Y, or Z. But I'm worried that it will like hurt the car. Like, I don't know if it's good for the car to do that, right? I don't know about you, but as somebody with like not a huge amount of money and a personal vehicle that I own, that I've been driving for years, I think about that a lot. You know, like, is this okay to do to the car? And so the idea of like a health bar on your racing game does actually really appeal to me. The idea that, I doubt this game does this, but as like Forza Horizon 5 maybe sort of does this, that certain maneuvers would be advantaged or disadvantaged based on like strategically, you can't destroy your car, like you can't drive it into the ground, you know? And that would be like an element of strategy, and you could, you know, cut corners in various ways, do an edgy maneuver, or even just go off a jump for a shortcut, but that would have the cost of doing damage to your motor vehicle. Like, that that kind of sounds cool to me. The idea that like drifting would leave you vulnerable because you're sliding sideways and maybe doing damage to your car, but also like that you, I don't know, might like take damage while that's happening. I don't know, like that's kind of interesting. Like I can get down with that. Um, I wonder what the fighting game thing is like. Like, do you actually do like fighting game maneuvers? Is that a thing that happens? Um, I don't know. That interests me as well. What would doing combos feel like when are you doing the combos with the same controls with which you steer the car? That seems yeah. You know, there's an interesting thing in Street Fighter, as someone who doesn't really play those types of fighting games that much. There's an interesting thing I'm aware of, I think a really cool piece of design where how do I describe this? So some combos will have you input, you know, like quarter circle back on the this was a terrible motion. You can tell I don't play Street Fighter because this motion is not quarter circle back. But anyway, whatever. You do like a little quarter circle with the joystick from like down to the left or like whatever direction is backwards for your character, right? And the idea there's two design things there. The first one is that it mimics the motion of doing the thing. So like maybe your character is going to do something physically on the screen that is like the control stick motion you did, so that operating the character and doing the combo kind of feels like you actually are doing the physical fighting motion, which is really cool. That's kind of a, I think, slightly unsung part of fighting games that maybe people who don't play that kind of fighting game don't like know is a thing. But I think that's really cool. So that's one thing. And then the second part is that sometimes the way you have to move to do that combo does make you, like you do the inputs of going down and then back. So you like crouch and move backward a bit or whatever, for example, when doing that move, which might have consequences, balancing consequences, for example. How would that change if you were in a car? I don't really have anything else to say about it besides that, but it's just like you are moving forward. And if you do a, you know, motion with the joystick, I don't know why I keep doing that motion that isn't a quarter circle. Anyway, whatever, you get it. Like, wouldn't your car go, so you have to like drive this way and then you do I don't know. Like, maybe not. Like, maybe it doesn't work like that. I haven't played this game. I think I maybe now will. Yeah. So that's it. Let me just, okay, here we go. Yes, I just want to make sure I did everything in the parlay request. I think it's interesting for different reasons too. I do sort of feel like this type of game design is pretty interesting for a reason I want to talk about to sort of conclude. And this is why. This is what I think is interesting about that, is that a lot of games, I criticize a lot of games for not having kind of throughput of design. There isn't a philosophy that unites all of the things in the game that systematically makes it likely that the design decisions will be good. There's no system being used when the design decisions were made. I don't think games like this do that, but they get closer because the only thing that the designer was thinking about when they chose what features to like try to get to work, you know, I'm sure they thought about some practicality as well. But at first they were just thinking, I could do this, or like, I want to make a game that has this aesthetic or style, you know, they weren't thinking about, you know, like, will it, I don't know, make more money, or is that like a response to the genre as it stands per se? Now, again, maybe they were thinking about those things, but what I mean is it's a very personal game. It's united by like stuff they like. It's just a bunch of stuff they like put in one place. There are a lot of builds like this too that I think are often really elegant when you see how the person who made them plays them. They have all these really interesting idiosyncratic little details that don't make any sense from a general build crafting perspective, but the person who made the build put them in because they have a very specific problem they solve with that piece. And this design is that way too. It's like, it is united by a philosophy. So at the very least, it is a very fully realized image of what this person wants out of this style of game, you know, because that's the only design philosophy they use to choose what to put in it. Why is there a fighting game mode? They probably just thought that'd be funny. It probably isn't because of what I was saying about how like doing Street Fighter style combos while literally moving forward on a racetrack is actually kind of interesting. Like that might have some interesting consequences, or like the damage thing. I don't think the designer is like stupid or something, by the way. I hope this doesn't sound like I'm throwing shade. I don't know. I'm just saying it doesn't sound like, from the way the game is described, that that was the kind of game design this person was doing, which is like fine. I think it's kind of interesting how that does lead to some interesting consequences. Having to combine games in this odd way often limits you to a very specific type of design. Like you have to do one of only a narrow range of things because there are no other options. Like you just can't, there's nothing left, you know? You have to do it this way. There isn't another way you can get it to fit, which has game design consequences. Limitations can breed creativity. I'm not repeating that because it's a common funky phrase. I'm repeating it because it's true. Like that is not a bad way to design a game. You know, a lot of people doing game jams, being restricted by the category for the game jam, you know, what type of game you have to make, what criteria you have to fill. Combining that with like the types of games they would want to make often narrows them down to like, this is what we're doing, let's go, which is of course the purpose of that type of challenge. I don't think that's a bad way to write a game, because I'm thinking about NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, where, you know, you're writing 50,000 words in a month, which I think people kind of overreact about just how much that is, but it is an amount where like you need to write, like you need to go, you need to just do it. Like you have an idea, fine, you gotta go write it, go. You need to go now. You cannot change your mind about that idea per se. You need to go write it right now. And I think that's good. Like that has led to some really, really good books in the past. I've read some things that were NaNoWriMo projects that were, you know, fleshed out more. And a lot of the time they do have like, it's easy to describe what the premise is, but then the book is, you know, well written and plays off that premise in an interesting way. It's got kind of the best of both worlds. This driving game's elevator pitch is buck up and drive. It's just the name. The name is the elevator pitch for the game. There's nothing else you need to do to pitch the game's design than it's a driving game that is named Buck Up and Drive. Imagine that. You're imagining the right thing. And then it has like some features and stuff. It's not like it's just a cardboard cutout of a marketable premise. I don't think this actually is a particularly marketable premise. But anyway, I think that's interesting. There's something not bad about that type of design. Anyway, that's really all I have to say. But this was cool. This was fun. I hope this was what you wanted. I haven't actually gotten much of any requests like this before, so I hope it was okay. Thanks for asking.